He asked me a question that I couldn't let go of.
Welcome to Untitled Success, Season 2. Thank you guys for joining us. Here with me today is Ryan with Crumbs Kids. Did I say it right?
You did.
Crumbs Kids. I think you're a serial entrepreneur. You have Crumbs Kids, and we're also going to get into the primitive coaching as well. Thank you for coming and joining me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to be here, and thank you for having me.
So the first question I always ask all my audience is, who were you in high school?
Wow. Okay. High school. I guess for me, I would say I was hopeful in high school, but I wasn't really set on the future. I was kind of just living day to day. A lot of just fun from, surfing, snowboarding, friends. I was hopeful, but I wasn't really set on the future. I think that's probably accurate.
Were you more of like an introvert or extrovert in high school? And were you like a good student or a bad student?
A little bit of both.
A little bit of both?
Yeah,
Okay.
a little bit of both. I think student-wise, like I never, school wasn't always my favorite thing, but I would say I was probably that like B to C student.
Okay.
But applying myself, I could hit the A every so often, but I wasn't really focused on hitting the A's. It was just kind of what do I need to do to kind of get this done? And I mean, that's an interesting question because high school, it's kind of a mixed bag in terms of what was going on with, family and just my life in general. But I kind of I never really thought of like what I wanted to do. But it was just kind of living in the moment. And, being healthy, like not making, crazy decisions, but, or bad decisions, but yeah.
So take us through your early life. After high school, like what did your career kind of look like? When did you get married?
Yeah. Oh, that journey for me in high school, there were some really important things that happened during that time. One was talking to a gentleman that would come to our school. You just call him a counselor now, not like a career counselor, but like a licensed counselor. And I remember talking to him, and that was a huge difference maker for me because he asked me a question that I couldn't let go of. He just said, what do you, like, his first question was, do you go to church? And I think that's a question where I think he said, I remember him saying, I don't think I should ask this, or I'm not allowed to typically ask this. He wasn't like trying to push something on me, but he just said kind of, what's your view of God? And he said, you go to church. And I just said, well, yeah, sometimes. But that question really was the start of me, I think, to start trying to understand myself and most importantly, my relationship with God. And so that really changed a lot for me. So I share that because I think God's always brought men in my life at just the right time to speak something to me or, model something for me that I could learn from and grow. And so that was really important for me. And so at the time I wasn't doing great in high school and I needed to get through these classes. And so my mom thought it was a good idea for me to talk to this counselor, and I'm grateful for that. And so anyways, got through high school. And then from there, it was more about just taking a break. I wasn't really serious. I started, taking community college classes here and there. I'd finish some of them, some I wouldn't finish. And I just wasn't enjoying school. And so, I started working, various jobs, restaurant jobs, different things. And then I started helping out in my local church's youth group because that's where I really started to discover my relationship with God and really focus on that. And so that was kind of the early years out of high school. Took some time to go to school. I didn't go back to school until I was about late 20s. So I think 26, 27 is when I started to get serious and say I need to probably finish school. And so I kind of started a little bit later in that. And so my journey then to getting married, I didn't get married until I was 35. So I was single for quite a while and didn't date a whole lot after I went off to school. But yeah, that's kind of part of my journey. So it's probably a little different. I became a dad just before 40. So
So 40, and then you have 3 kids.
I have 3 kids, 7, 5, and 3. So my son and 2 daughters. So
2 daughters?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So my journey's a little, I wouldn't say like unconventional, but it's just the path that I took. And I share that when you ask that question, who was I in high school? I think not having that maybe bigger vision or like kind of what I wanted to do. I knew I always wanted to help people. That was always, I could say that right away. I want to help people, but defining that took some time. And so, that's a lot different now in my life. But
did you work a corporate job before you started your entrepreneur route?
Yes, I did a couple different things.
Okay.
So I worked in marketing for a number of years, and then I responded to a what I'd say calling to pursue student ministry, because I was a student leader in my church for years. We had the same group of us that were just walking with high school age students, and that was really impactful for me. And always thought like, well, maybe I'm called to that or could do that, but stepped out of that marketing job to pursue that and ended up taking a youth pastor position in student ministry. And it was a complete it felt like a complete 180, but it also felt like I need to do this. And so
seems like your path is to become a pastor at this point.
Yeah, I would say that. Like, ministry's always been a calling. I love there's so many parts of the church that I love, like discipleship. And I share that because faith is really what drives everything I do. And so that's something that I put tremendous value on, and that's what guides my life, my relationship with God. But for me, I've always thought of wanting to create something, and I think being an entrepreneur has always been there, but it just took a while to kind of get that out and define what that looks like to actually like go to work on that and give myself permission to do that in a lot of ways. But it was always about like not just stopping what I was doing, but like starting something, what you would say like a side hustle or something on the side. Yeah. And so, yeah.
So did you end up like quitting whatever you were doing and focusing full time on the coaching as well as the Crumbs Kids?
Yeah. So the coaching came a little bit later. That's within the last couple years for me. Okay. But the Crumbs Kids, the cooking product, that started when I was in that marketing role where I was asked to lead these kids cooking classes, and I said, sure, I guess I could do that. And it was the most random thing, but I jumped into it, and then I thought, man, kids are using these products that aren't really, they don't fit their hands. And so that was like years before I even kind of came up with the idea and thought I'm going to make something that hopefully is, of value and practical for kids to use and safe and all that. But that didn't start until after I was well out of that job. I mean, years down the line. And then I was, my wife and I met when I had that youth pastor position. And then after that, I transitioned out of that, and my wife and I wanted to go serve overseas with an organization called Mercy Ships. My wife's a nurse, and so she had actually gone on that, the Mercy Ship while we were dating. And so I got to follow her journey. So here I am doing youth ministry, kind of knowing that that's probably wasn't going to be the long term, but still in the context of ministry, part of my life. And always knew that going overseas is something that would be unique to do. But for us to do it together was awesome. And being able to see her as a nurse on board, taking care of patients that had kind of benign tumor removals, things like that, it was incredible to see how much that brought joy to her. And so about a year after we got married, we decided to apply and see if we could go, and it's all voluntary. So we did that together for a year, 2015, 2016, in Madagascar. We went over to Africa for about 10 months. So
someone in that position, right? 2015, 2016, and you guys up and leave for a little bit. Yeah. I would assume it's at least a month that you're gone.
No, we went to
Madagascar.
No, we went for 10 months.
10 months.
Yeah. So it's a 10-month service opportunity. They call it a field service. And so my wife is a nurse on board. That's like a shoe-in. She could get in to do that. And then for me, I was in communications. So and it's all voluntary.
So that's the part that I guess it's hard for me to fathom, right? Yeah. 10 months. Yeah. The first few things that come to my head is you got bills to pay.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you have to have a pretty decent savings in order for you to do something. Or
Yeah.
you're like, hey, listen, I'm going to pack up, close everything,
Yeah.
and go away for 10 months. How does,
Yeah.
if someone's trying to do ministry for 10 months, walk us through how that thought process is. You don't just get up and leave. I would assume you wouldn't just get up and leave.
Yeah.
Like how are bills paid? How are your like livelihood taken care of here?
Yeah. So for us, we raised some funds to go. Like
Okay.
we just told all our family and friends. So we had some support that way.
Okay.
And that was a huge support for us to be able to do that. But yeah, we essentially just packed our things up. We pretty much rented out our condo. We had a condo at the time, so we rented out our condo and just had a good property manager and just got it rented. And so we were able to kind of just seamlessly, kind of fairly easily do that. But it took planning. It took a while for us to kind of look at the application process, and it was pretty easy to do, and it's very doable to go because you're basically living on a hospital ship, so you're not like having to figure out other housing. It's very doable. Families do this. They do it for years. There was a surgeon on board that served for over 30 years on that ship. So it was a really unique way to kind of almost just like pack up our things and look at the stuff that really we need and don't need. So it was a lot of, it was helpful to do that too, to just go, we're fitting everything that we think we need in this little storage unit and then taking off. Yeah. But had the house covered, which was helpful. Yeah. And then from there, I transitioned out of student ministry, and it had been, good like 6 months plus 8 months of, doing more part-time work to be able to kind of go, I think we're wanting to step out and do this. So that's how it worked for me. For my wife, she had to, put in a notice, basically a leave for her work. And then they actually let her do that. And she came back afterwards and worked a little bit too. So they were gracious.
You guys came back and just picked up kind of where you guys left off.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It was really, really unique opportunity. So, but I share that because that was a big part of my wife and I wanting to do something together and to just step into more of what we feel, we're gifted in and lean into that. And to see my wife, doing the work she did on board, I would sometimes go down to some of the wards, they call them, and I would watch her. I would just kind of peek in and see her, and she didn't know I was there. And it was such a gift to me to see my wife just caring for people in that way and using her nursing skills in a way that is much different than being able to do that here at the bedside. In like on a hospital ship or in Africa, it's different. You're gonna be able to just experience a whole different level of patient care and bedside care. So
before we move on from this part of your life, right? So my wife, she went to Kenya for I think a month. It was a mission trip with our church. And she came back, same person, slightly different. And one of the things I asked her, I'm like, hey, like, what was your favorite part of this whole ministry? It wasn't the place that you were staying at, because you were telling me it was grimy and like there was ants everywhere. So it definitely wasn't that, right? Hygiene wasn't there, right? So what was your favorite part? And she says, these kids have nothing. These kids have nothing. But they have more peace than half of the people that we went with.
Wow.
And you can see it in their face. Like, they're very joyful, and they're just happy to be alive, right? What was your favorite part about being in Madagascar with your wife?
Wow, yeah. I would say just the people and the culture, and being able to see just faith, community, and seeing God work in ways that I hadn't before. And that was really a gift to see that. But children, families, being able to experience, kind of healing in ways that wouldn't be possible without medicine, and seeing how God uses that. And it was just incredible, just how practical it is. And the willingness too of people and their stories about how they got there. Yeah. So the relationships, the people, but being able to see kids. One example would be a child that is born. It could be a baby with a cleft lip and isn't able to nurse, isn't able to get nutrition, literally starving to death, and have a simple surgery correct that so that baby can then feed, and the mother not feeling like she's hopeless or can't do anything. seeing her baby literally come back to life in that way. I mean, that's a reality that happens. So it's just seeing how something as simple as that can save a life and change, generations was so impactful. And just the joy people had. So that's kind of a lot of answers to that question, but it's just seeing people have hope in their life and through this medical care, surgical care that's provided. And that was really impactful for me.
Wow.
It makes things, brings things in perspective pretty quickly to know, like, wow, if this didn't happen, this child isn't going to survive, and this would change this entire family, this entire community. So that was really a gift to be able to experience that. So
when you come back, when did you decide to start your own company?
Yeah.
And why not just stay helping the youth and helping church and staying there rather than starting your own company?
Yeah. So the idea of the Crumbs Kids product, I had some experience doing some cooking classes, like I mentioned, and then I started a couple of those. My sister at the time had younger kids, and I talked about, like, well, maybe we do some of these cooking classes. She's like, yes, let's do it, because my kids need something to do. So I ended up, like, renting a commercial kitchen space, doing the licensing and all that, and it was a really, I wouldn't say bad business model, but, like, it was really hard to be profitable. If you scale like a cooking class company, if people have done that, awesome. They know it's hard, but you got to be able to scale it in ways that you can make a profit. It's tough by the time you get everything together.
Would you say it's tough because of the overhead that you have, or
so if you're renting like a commercial kitchen space or something like that, you're paying all of those fees to then have a class where you're charging per class, and then it's kind of like almost like a wash, right? And so unless you can scale it up. But it was just about more of like, hey, let's just see how this goes. And part of it was for some R&D to see, hey, what do kids need when they're in the kitchen? And it was, again, just kind of this idea. And I think there's more there too that I'd like to see the product be able to do for people. But it was just gathering my sister, her kids, some of her friends, and that's kind of how it started. And then from there, I just kind of went, hey, I'm still going to run with this idea and see if I can make this product. And then that was, again, down the line, a couple years, but I kind of had it in my head, and I knew I wanted to do it just to try it. And I don't know why that was kind of the thing. I just thought, I think it can solve a problem. And that's, I think, why you should have any business. It needs to solve a problem, meet a need. And so that's kind of how that started. But yeah, I jumped back in after we moved. So when we got back from Madagascar, my wife and I relocated to Central Oregon. Now that's where her family's from. Yeah. And then from there, I started working. I was working in nonprofit, and that's been really the majority of my career is nonprofit. And then it eventually led to, hey, I'm going to try to launch this product, and I started doing all the back end work and do that. But it was on the side. It was while I was still working, and so it took a little bit of time, but.
Has it become your full-time job now?
No, not full-time job. I'm working on, marketing. Like, how do you really market a product that can really convey what it does? And that's a challenge, but something I'm working on. But looking really more in the partnership side of things, and so it's both wholesale and retail. But looking at how to partner with with different retailers, different companies that might want to do something like that. And then for me, the coaching piece came in just a couple of years ago, to where I really focused on that too. So I've always had kind of the ability to work on multiple things, with focus and getting those things done. But that's
so we'll touch on the coaching a little bit later. Yeah. But I will say, when my wife brought that product home, the knife for my kid, I thought it was genius. I think the part that's interesting is I never knew it was a need until I had it, and I was like, this is amazing. And that was like, so my kid now, every time she's like, Daddy, can we cook? I'm like, yeah, sure. So I'll bring some tomatoes for her, or like some strawberries, and seamlessly she'll just kind of cut it through, and I'm like, wow, awesome. This is amazing. Yeah. So
that's great.
My wife saw it. She's like, Tim, you have to interview this guy. This is awesome.
That's awesome. That is great. Thanks. Yeah. No, I'm glad she likes it. And I think it's great because what I think is best about that is you and your daughter together. Hey, Daddy, I want to cook. And you're saying, okay. Right. That right there. I mean, if anything, if that was the one product that, was sold and that was it, that's awesome. Yeah. Because it's about us engaging, right, with our kids and, or regardless if you're, an uncle, if you're a brother, and it's about the relationships we have and those moments that we share together, but having a tool that can help, a child do that safely in the kitchen, that's important. It's
needed. That story intentional though? Was that story intentional? Like you're creating a product so you can spend time with your kids, or was this like a fluke, like, hey, let's just try to find a problem, or we found a problem, let's see if we can find a solution?
Yeah. So I didn't have kids at the time when I created it, when I started to think about it and create it. But as a dad now, using it and having, 3 of them in the drawer and the kids come out. Yeah, absolutely. Because it helps me. It's a big reminder for me to like slow down and to know like, these are the moments that I want to bring my kids into. And I think it's really when we're doing that together, like pull out the, knives and help out with dinner. It's peace of mind because I know my kids can do it. I don't have to worry about them slicing their hands, things like that. But it brings us together. So that's part of it was the idea also to have for men to engage in that, because I mean, men throw down a lot of food in the house. They cook, they shop a lot of times too. And what better way to then bring your kids into that, whether it's like, hey, you can slice some mushrooms for something or whatever it is. Because it's about connection, and it's about really leaning into those moments. And I think that's definitely a part of why I have the product. And I hope it can do that for families, to be able to, center around meals is one of the most important things we can do. Yeah. And what better way to, get the family involved, get the kids involved without having to be like, don't take that out. Don't get that messy. It's simple, it's easy. And that's one thing, thinking about a parent. How does a parent think? I always ask my sister at the time, like, what makes it easier? Like just one thing, don't have, 4 different things out, just one thing they can do. And that's part of it too. So something that's simple to use, but it really helps bring people together. That's a core part of why I created the product. So
you have this product that you created that you started selling.
Yeah.
Right. You still are working. And now you decided to take on this coaching. It's called Primal Coaching.
So Primal Question.
Primal Questioning.
Primal Question Coach. Okay. So I'm a Certified Primal Question Coach. And that was something that I've always thought about doing, but it's more so on just my heart for like discipleship, just walking with people one-on-one. And the coaching part was something that really piqued my curiosity, and specifically the Primal Question.
For those who don't know what that is, can you walk us through what that entails?
Yes, the Primal Question framework is a way to look at questions that are often asked in our childhood that either go answered or unanswered by our caregivers, or the people that were raising us closest to us. And what happens is when those questions don't get answered, we typically carry those into adulthood. And those questions often dictate or determine a lot of our emotions and behaviors associated with them. And what happens is when our questions don't get answered, or those primal questions don't get answered with a yes, there's a couple things that happen. And so that's really the core. It's a framework to really look at some of these questions that can drive us and the emotions and behaviors in our lives.
How'd you get into it?
So Mike Foster is a coach. He's a high-level executive coach and has been doing that for years. And he has written just fantastic resources all about really looking at trauma and past, forgiveness. He has a really unique way to create such a safe space for people to engage in discussion and connection. And so I discovered Mike just through his resources and content. The first thing that I stepped into with Mike was not a dating course, but a marriage course that my wife and I took just a couple years ago. And that's how I discovered Mike. And it was called 5 Dates. And so I just kind of followed him and what he was doing. And then he launched his 7 Primal Questions book. And I ordered it and read it, and I was like, wow, this is great. It really just, there's something that just really hit me with those questions where I went, wow, that's one of my questions. And I thought, no way. Like, how do you say, hey, there's a list of questions here that could really, that I could relate to. And
what's one question that hit home for you?
So mine, so primal question, how you find out your primal question is you can take a really quick assessment. But mine is, do I have purpose? And it could be because of the season of my life.
Yeah.
And I think out of these 7 questions, you might say, yeah, maybe part of that, one of those is part of me, or maybe one of them is, yeah, that's really me. But it's surprisingly accurate for me. And I would say, because that question you asked me originally about who I was in high school, not having that definition of what do you mean by wanting to help people, right? Kind of the opposite of knowing that I have purpose would be being a stuck dreamer, as Mike describes it. And so I just went, wow, like I've never thought of it that way. Like, oh, I'll do that someday, or maybe I'll do that. It's that kind of living in my head and my life. And that was pretty true in a lot of ways. I don't know if I should do that.
Yeah.
So creating hesitation, creating, a lot of doubt in my life. Not that that's all negative, because it's a process of walking through things that we experience in life. But that really spoke to me, and that was where I went, wow, this could be a really unique tool. So I started that for myself, and then realized they had a certification, and just jumped in, and here we are. So,
wouldn't you say most men kind of fall into that category, about purpose in life?
I think so. Yeah, I think purpose and career. I mean, whenever we meet another man, what's usually the first question you ask?
What do you do for a living?
What do you do? It's not what do you love. It's not what do you love. Like, dude, what's the best steak you've ever, or food you've ever had, right? Yeah. What's the best meal you've ever had?
Yeah.
It's what do you do?
Yeah.
And a lot of times that can be really uncomfortable. I know it's been for me, like when I'm in a transition, and even current transition that I've been in, through trying to step out more with, okay, can I scale this business with the product? Okay, it's working. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it's working. The coaching side of things, can I offer something for other men to really help them? Those kind of doubt questions that have rolled through my mind, and having to work through that and go, no, this is something I'm passionate about. And so, yeah, you have that part of any kind of, new venture that you step into.
Yeah.
But most men, I think it's career, it's provision. I mean, it's pretty simple. Sometimes when you think about it, like we can kind of narrow it down.
Yeah.
But the primal question part really gets to the heart of those things. Why the need for success? Why the need? So one of those questions would be, am I successful? And that's not a bad thing, but getting to the heart of that question, in coaching, can really unlock things for men to say, okay, well, that's why I'm maybe overworking, or maybe I need to work a little bit more, or maybe it's time to do, right? So I find it to be really helpful for men to really have like a magnifying glass on maybe one of those questions that they haven't realized that they've carried into their life. So yeah, but mostly, career always, I think, for men, and that's okay. That's a good thing.
Yeah,
that's a great thing to be focused on career and concerned about that, and working. That's what we do.
Yeah, the word, like, I find it interesting because when we talk about success, are you successful? Mm-hmm. I would venture out and tell you that most of the people that you've given these questions to would say no, right? Because they're lacking one of a few things, right? It could be, they might define success as their family, like I'm not successful there. They might define their success in their marriage, and they might not be successful there, or their career. So I'd be very interested to see if anyone actually says yes, because it seems like most men would say no. Even if I made, for example, $500,000 tomorrow, and you ask me, do you feel successful? 9 out of 10 times, I'd probably tell you no, because there's always something lacking in my life.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I think, so how do we find that out? Like, how would we find out what's behind that? And I think that framework allows you to kind of back up and look at your responses that question has brought on. Has that success, or am I successful, has that been out of like scarcity, right? Like like I'm not going to have enough, or things like that, where, okay, my work is just about making the next thing or scaling or whatever it is, and getting a payout or whatever it might be, and then now what? And that's not a bad thing, but I think if a question like that goes ignored, it might turn into other actions and behaviors and responses to things that maybe you don't realize are happening. And the success is defined sometimes differently, man to man, as we can see, but there's always more behind that. So not the why about wanting to be successful, but the what. Like, what is that going to do? What will that really do for your family or your children? Or, right? It's a good thing. And I think what helps you step back from that, right? That's what those questions can do, to go, okay, let's look at why the need to, all right, we're going to scale this thing, we're going to do this thing, and then it's on to the next, without maybe even celebrating what you did, your accomplishment. It's just like, you're kind of just, you're on autopilot.
Yeah.
So it's a way to take you off of autopilot, to be like, nope, you're flying this thing, right? You have this responsibility and you're doing this. But let's see if we need to change course here a little bit, or we got to just stay this course, or we need to kind of, to use the airplane analogy, maybe we need to change the altitude a little bit, or maybe you need to just relax a little bit. I don't know. So, or maybe you need to land this thing, right? So there's things like that I think knowing those questions can be really helpful. Some of the other ones are, am I loved? Am I good enough? And those can be very painful to dive into, and can be very traumatic. And it's not meant, the primal questions aren't meant to go, hey, you're a primal question 7, which is, do I have purpose? And not like labeling yourself as, oh, you're a primal question 2 or primal question 3. But what it is it's really to help, I think, hyper move into the things that drive you in a faster way, to see how those questions really do shape your life. Because there's a couple of responses that I mentioned. One is your chaotic response to your question getting answered with a no, which is what's called a scramble. So that could be things like people pleasing, overworking, like you name it, just addictive behaviors. And then when your question's answered with a yes, you tend to look at life through kind of that superpower that you have, your primal gift. You start living that out. Maybe in that being successful, you have so much empathy towards people, but you're building so fast, you don't have time to talk to your team anymore, or you're just losing touch with them, right? Yeah. But you have that empathy and you care. That's why you started the business, to help people succeed or grow with you, right? And so what's taking you away from that? What's pulling you away from the things that really is your biggest gift to give to the world, to yourself and to people. So there's kind of two different responses, the no response and the yes, and they do two different things in your life. And so not that it's like a formula that like, oh, if you do this, but our actions and behaviors, or emotions and behaviors tend to flow from the things that we either think we need, or like you said, am I successful? And you say no. I would say, why the no? Like what's that? Let's look at that. Yeah.
So you're a pretty calm and collective guy. So I can't picture you having like internal pressure by running these companies.
Yeah.
But if you do, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So for me, it's always about, you want to have fun, but I would say it's being mindful of the planning side of things. Giving things time to grow. So not having to figure it out, but working on things. So if I'm struggling getting sales, let's say for the product, or trying to get a wholesale contract or something like that, taking the time that I need to do that, to look into that. Is it something that I'm believing about myself, right? It's kind of just doing that. So keeping a healthy perspective on that, and just knowing, focusing time on what needs to get done so that I can be present for my kids. So I'm not thinking about this stuff when I'm at dinner, or giving a bath, or whatever it might be, or going to the park with my son or my kids. Being present is huge. So it's keeping that in perspective, but also knowing that you need to drive. Like there's things sometimes that really need more work and attention, and to do that. But
how do you find that balance though? Like how do you find the balance? And this is obviously a question for me as well, is that, okay, well, I have a few things that I'm starting up, And as usual, they're not growing as fast as you want.
Right.
And as usual, like you have to find time to be present with your family. But then when you're with your family, you get the phone call, you get the this, you get the that, right? So how did you figure out, or maybe the word figure out is not the right, but how did you find the boundaries for yourself to say, here are my companies that I'm running, but when I'm present, I'm away from that. Like, how did you find that balance?
Yeah. A lot of it is finding the time that I need before I'm on with the kids or family. It's if it's getting up earlier to get the work done, if it's time blocking, things that can be really challenging for me that I've had to really continue to work on. But it's setting up my day, my week, and really looking at what I need to do and going, okay, when I do that, that's preparing me to be able to spend time with my kids. Getting that done. And some stuff isn't going to always, right? We know it's not going to get done. It's going to lean over. But I've just learned to kind of put it in its place.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's communication, talking to my wife to say, hey, I think I need a couple more hours to do this, or I'm going to need some extra time tomorrow. Is that okay if I do that? And learning that when I do that, I can feel a little less pressure, that I'm not like trying to be super dad and like I can't, do all these things. But it's setting the expectation. Is that okay? And if my wife says no, or like, okay, it really like reminds me, what could I do a little bit differently to get that done? Or do I need to take that call right now? Just setting up some really healthy boundaries that you constantly have to do. There's right. You set it and then it changes. Cause as we know, dads, those of us that are dads, or just, you're married, you have a relationship. That's the most important thing. And so we can get really restless, or I can, when I feel like those things are kind of leading over too much into the family. It gets stressful, and my attitude can change, and all of a sudden I have to go, why am I
a little agitated?
Yeah.
Or
why am I trying to? Why am I trying to take a text right now?
Yeah.
Why am I trying to take a call? Why am I thinking about sending this email? But just healthy boundaries. I've heard an entrepreneur say, he gets asked like, hey, how do I get started? And younger people want to talk about entrepreneurial ventures, and he says, what time do you go to bed? That's what he was saying, because he said how you set up your evening is really how you're going to set up your day and approach kind of your life. And he said,
interesting.
He was talking about that, and I thought that was really, I just heard that pretty recently, and I went, I've never really heard that. But it's preparing. It's how I set up. The end of my day is just as important as how I start it, to be able to look at, okay, what do I need to do? What are the times I'm going to be with my kids today? I want to be present. And then, of course, asking God, please help me stay focused and do what I need to do so that I can, be the man I want to be, the father I want to be, the husband I want to be to those that I love. But it takes constant refining. Yeah. And I'm like, man, I wish I could do that differently, or man, I wish I wouldn't, but it's okay. You have to, I learn and keep going. And I think that's a good thing to think about.
Through all this refining, has there been any non-negotiables that you've had from start to finish?
Yeah. Non-negotiable would be, I think this is one, like, cause a lot of the work I'm doing is at home at times. And, if I'm working on something and one of my kids comes in, right, and I'm working on something, and instead of like, can't do that, I stop and I look at them and I give them my full attention. Even if I say, hey, Daddy would love to play right now, I need to get something done. It's really, here's why I'm doing it. So I would say that's one. I'm never going to like shoo off my kids. Like, oh, I don't have time for you.
Wow.
I mean, you might not be able to do that. Some guys are
That's
going,
so,
I can't do that.
That's so hard.
Yeah, I'm in an office and my kids come in. I can't just stop what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But when you have that flexibility, that's a big reminder to me to be like, they're more important than this. And I'm going to look back, and I don't want to go, man, remember how many times I just pushed them away? Like, I don't want to do that. So that's one. The second one is not breaking promises to myself. So if I say, hey, I'm going to do this, I need to do this. If I set a time block to something, do it. Because when I don't stick to that, that's where a lot of the, kind of some doubt comes in, or questions. It's honoring the commitments really I make to myself so that I can, show up, for others. And so, physical, moving my body, physical fitness is important. Eating as healthy as I can. Those are really important things. Keep the energy up, but just moving and having time to, pause, some quietness, stillness is really key for me. Those are non-negotiables, and I try to stick to that as best I can. So time of, prayer, meditation, that's really important.
Yeah. So you have meditation.
Yeah. Prayer,
meditation,
yep.
right? You have non-shooing your kids away, right? You have fitness, and then you have no broken promises to yourself.
Those are big ones.
Those are your 4.
Yeah, because if those things, like I know I need to move, it's where I get ideas sometimes. I think I've heard a lot of people say that, when you move, or even out of a time of prayer, stillness, or time with God, you want to move. Or you're moving while you're, praying and doing those things. But those are really important for me. And so if I value those things and I do those things, it really is just a way that kind of grounds me. And it kind of brings the things that I really value and care about in perspective. It's pretty helpful for me. So those are things. And that's through encouragement from other men that live that out and have challenged me on that and encouraged me and walk with me in that. So
one question I have for you is, as you're going through this process, have you ever had self-doubt about either one of these companies that you started?
Oh yeah. The Crumbs product, not so much. It was kind of like, I'm going to just keep discovering. It was this like discovery process. So how do you go from a drawing to trying to find a manufacturer to then patenting a product and all this, and then trying to sell the product, get into a store, things like that. That process, not so much. I think one thing that plays in is, are people going to like this? Are people going to buy it? But I knew, well, I think so. Like, I believe that. I just believe that. Just keep going with it. I want to see this thing.
Can I touch on 2 things on this side?
Yeah.
So you're doing R&D on this product. Some of it has to do with money. Like, there has to be some sustainability to this. Yeah. So is that like one doubt? The other one, you were saying that like, hey, are people going to like this? Yeah, I understand that doubt. But the money part, right? A lot of people don't like to discuss that part because they're like, hey, some people quit before they're just about to take off. So how did you not let that doubt kind of push into quitting on that product?
Yeah. I knew that for me, everything was done just as like low budget as I could. So trying to find a person to design, like do the CAD part of it.
Okay.
I'm not a CAD designer, but I know like what I want it to look like and all that kind of stuff. So just finding the steps to do it really as thin as possible. And I didn't, look for any outside, investment to do the product. It was like, hey, I have this much that I think I can spend on it.
Okay.
And I had to find, again, the manufacturer, the steps to do it. And so I think when you start a business, it's really important to look at what's in front of you, what you have. And that's what I did. I was just kept telling myself, no, you have that. Like, you have the ability to go find somebody. You have the ability to work with them on, how much this is going to cost. And it's like, I had a chance to give myself permission to keep saying, okay, I think that's working. Let's go to the next step. Let's go to the next step. I knew what I wanted to do with it, but it was just a giant puzzle. A friend of mine says an entrepreneur creates his or her own storms, and then you just got to go through them. So like, how are you going to go through it? And I think that's so true. You're like, you have these ideas and the things you want to do, but how are you going to make that stuff happen? It's a storm a lot of times. You're kind of trying to find your way in it. And so, I think that was always something that I knew financially, like it wasn't this huge thing where I was going to, take out a loan or something like that. The founder of Tom's, Blake Makowski, I hope I'm saying that name right. He was a huge inspiration for me about how he started his company and did it on such a just bootstrap. Had people, I think when they had their first office, he asked friends, they had like a little get together and he had them bring like phones and printers and coffee cups just so he could have all this stuff with his, crew of interns that were helping him and stuff like that. Just resourcefulness, I think, is really key. So anyways, that's something that I've always kept on the forefront. Just be resourceful, try not to spend what you don't need to spend on, and do it that way without taking a loan out. If you can, if it's a business where you can do that. And then the other side, the coaching side, it was what I have to offer. Is that something that a man would want or listen to or think, oh, that's helpful for me. And so that played into a little bit of doubt with that, but going, no, I'm going to keep I'm going to keep at that because I'm passionate about seeing men really unlock things in their life to get to the next level and the next place in their life and understanding more what drives them.
So let's keep on that note, right? Someone in your shoes would say, starting out would say, there's probably people that do it better than me. Mm-hmm. If whatever I have to offer, is it worth anything? And how many clients can I get from this? It's usually the three things that, like, if it's a service base rather than a product base,
sure,
that's where the self-doubt comes from. At least where I see it in a lot of the people that I'm around. How do you overcome that?
Yeah.
How do you say, like, I'm going to put my head down, I'm going to weather the storm, and when do you say, like, hey, it's time to call it quits, or hey, this is actually working out?
Yeah. I think it's starting with what's behind that, or we hear the why, right? What's your why? But what's behind and why? What's the why behind what you're doing? Is it because you just want to make money doing something? Is it because you want more flexibility? Like, really defining why you're in business in the first place, or why you want to move forward with that idea. And from there, it's asking ourselves an honest question about, can I do this? Will I do this? And then creating a plan to move forward in it, and then look at the things that you have to do and do that. And it's hard. It's not hard because it's not a clear path. There's things that happen, and we have lives, and all different things beyond that idea or that business that you're trying to grow. Life is going on at the same time too. So I think it's how you approach those two things and how you do that. And that could be some of the things I mentioned, like, boundaries or different things that help you stay on track with those things. Not to stay balanced, but I would say create more of a rhythm, like in your life. But yeah, that's something that I think is always going to play into any kind of business venture. But yeah, you have to keep that in perspective of really, what am I doing this for? And I think that's really what can propel you to keep going when you might want to quit or give up, or just say, hey, I'm going to sit on this for a while, or maybe this is going to lead into something else and it's time to, to move on. But I would say that's the big part of believing in yourself that you can do it.
What do you say to the young men today that most of the things that they go into, they're going into because it can make me money?
Yeah, I would go back to those questions. It would be, what is the need for that? Explore that. Find out. I think take some time to listen to your heart. Listen, and if you have, a faith in God or belief in God, and I would say pray and ask God. Find out how you're wired, and if you know that, lean into that first. And then from there, think about what you might want to create, or if what you're thinking is really in line with who you are. Because you're going to be working with people, and it's about relationships. Yes, you can get quick, money. I think our culture there's a lot of that messaging. Yeah. But as you know, like, businesses are not quick. Like, startups are not, there's a reason why it's called a startup. It takes time before it becomes a profitable business. Some might take off quickly, and that's great, but that's very rare. Yeah. Very rare. The stories I hear about men and women have grown businesses 5 years in, 10 years in, 15 years in before. Or, hey, that was my 6th business, right? You don't hear about that.
Yeah, you don't.
But I would say just take a step back. What's driving you? Are you getting to some questions of the heart, right? Maybe some of those primal questions would be a great place to start. But, like, doing that with someone else. A mentor, someone that's going to walk with you and challenge you and help you move through some of those things and guide you in that. If you want to go into business, you have to learn from someone that's in it. Otherwise, and I think people that typically are successful or passionate about what they do, they want to share that. They want to help. So I would say you got to find someone that you can walk with and ask some questions. Hey, how do I do this? Be okay with that. Be okay with not knowing things, because that's how you can learn and grow. But getting to the heart first is where I would say, what helps you step back? What would help a young man or woman step back and ask those questions to start leaning into that. So,
are these your 2 full-time jobs now?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. And I've been in a transition I was mentioned nonprofit's been a big part of my life. That's about almost a decade of nonprofit work. I was doing full-time fundraising for a nonprofit for many years and transitioned out of that. And I've leaned more time into the businesses. And that's really where the coaching practice started to catch too. So just seeing if I could really give some more time to these things and what I'm passionate about to grow those. And that's what I'm currently doing. So
a lot of the things that you mentioned today is very faith-based. Okay. So one of the things I think is very difficult to learn is as a kid, my parents had a restaurant. It didn't go the best. And every time I asked my mom about it, and, she's like, we did everything we did, right? We could. We have to leave it in God's hand, right? And that word, right, leave it in God's hand, I could never comprehend that, right? I can never comprehend just praying and leaving it in God's hand. Though I believe in that. As a man, right, you're like, I need to be doing something to make sure that the outcome of this is favorable towards me.
Yeah.
Not until later in life, at least for me, do I realize like some things that you just need to pray on and you'll have your answer. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not a year from now, right? Has that always been your perspective as growing up? Or did that take time to learn to pray and leave it in his hands?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say no. Like it's a process. It's been a complete process. Because being younger, that's where I really started to grow with God, but just the process of trusting God in my life. That's where faith comes in. We just trust, and a lot of times you do what you can because we have the opportunity, and God, I fully believe God gives specific gifts and things that we can do, and we have to trust Him in that. And a lot of times, if something doesn't work out, I don't think it's because it doesn't work out. Like my wife reminds me, it's what we learn in that. And I think so many times in my life, that's what God shows me. It's what I learn in things. Not that, hey, it didn't work out, and I trust you in that, God, but He shows me that, you still need to figure out what's next, right?
Yeah.
My wife also says, and I don't know where she heard it from, but God doesn't move a parked car, right? Like, I mean, I believe God can do anything, but I think you have to, we have the opportunity to step into things and trust God that, okay, I'm going to go for this. And if it doesn't work out, sometimes you have to look at, what happened with that and be honest about it and own things. But know that, God has a plan, and he's with you in that, no matter how it works out. But it's important to look at any venture and anything you're doing, with a plan and, as much understanding as you can before you just, jump into it. But so
what's the biggest lesson you've learned faith-based?
I would say just letting go. That's a hard thing. Letting go of things that I have felt have been a failure or things that didn't work out is letting go and literally just saying, okay, like, God, I'm going to give this to you. Like what your mom was saying, like, it's in your hands. Right. But that's been a lot of, I wouldn't say grinding, but just a lot of grace in my life, to be able to see it as learning, as my wife also reminds me a lot of what we learn, not just about what I think we lost or lose. And that's that's not, and something that has been, yes, it could be traumatic, but it's not, we go through a lot of different things and people experience a lot of different things that can be extremely traumatic. And that can be that's a whole sometimes different way to process it.
Oh, for sure.
Right. But in that context of maybe something I saw as a loss, or, hey, this isn't working out, business related, or let's say investment related or something like that. It's just letting it go. Because I tend to like to take things back and kind of make things more complicated. So I'm always working on that. But I would say those are big ones for me that I've really continued.
How long is it taking you to learn that? To let it go?
It's lifetime. But I think a little bit more understanding of like, okay, adult logic now, right? I'm not going to let that drive who I am. I'm not going to let what I think or defining a loss drive me, where in the past it did really. It's like, okay, but that thing, right? Or man, I wish that didn't work out. I'm spending time thinking about that. So yeah, it's what I do now, and it's how I handle it. It's recognizing it. So it's having some more tools to do that. And then trusting, obviously leaning in my faith to know, no, there's more opportunity.
Yeah.
Like, where is this mentality coming from where I'm just like, oh, I won't be able to do that again? Or when that's really not the case. It might be time to step back a little bit and take some time or pause, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to have another opportunity to do something.
The reason I ask you that is because I couldn't agree with you more, right? Yeah. Letting it go. But as 18, 24, 25-year-old Tim, I'm invincible. I shouldn't be able to let anything go. They should let it go. I shouldn't let it go. Okay, then you get a little bit older. Hey, like I really stuck to my faith, and my faith teaches me to let it go. Okay, but did you actually let it go? Right? Because you're like, okay, I'm going to let it go, but I'm still thinking about it. And then for me now, again, still ongoing lesson, but having a kid, now I'm like, okay, I'm really starting to hone in on this letting go. So like, for example, for me, we were in the process of buying like a mailbox place. Literally just prayed about it. I'm like, if this is your will, let it be. And if it's not, push it away. Right? And it was the first time where I was stressed in the sense of like, okay, we got to make it work, but it wasn't working. And it wasn't working. And then I was just like, it's okay. Right? And I think the whole part of letting it go is a process. There's the first part where you don't, the second part where you think you let it go, but you're not really letting it go. And the third part, it's like, okay, I understand. I'm self-aware of that. So like, when did you actually start letting it go?
Yeah, I would say just the community care around me, like being able to process it, talking to a counselor, like why is it so hard for me to, right? It's that. So it's doing that in community. It's being open and honest and being vulnerable to share, when sometimes I think as men, we can keep that stuff in and be like, oh, that's my thing.
Very much so.
Right? That's my thing. But letting people in, or letting a trusted person into that, I would say, number one, your spouse. Sometimes that's even the hardest things, because as men, we don't want to admit, it's hard for us to admit failure that we think that we're defining as failure. But yeah, just people being able to talk about it, saying, this is just hard to let this thing go, and talking things through, stepping back. Those things have been huge to be able to do that, and then look at things today that I'm not going to spend as much time maybe dwelling on, because I'm going, hey, I know what that does to me. I know that just takes me out. I mean, my wife has shared at times, like, when you're not here, like, we're not here, right? It's like, we need you. And if I can't show up well, then I need to unpack that with someone. And I would say doing that with the safest people that we can find, counselors, just mentors, trusted people, good friends that we have, to do that and be okay with breaking it down is a huge help, not only to me, but I think as men that can really just let you move forward. It's helped me in a lot of ways. So
yeah. So now, as of today, where do both of your companies go?
Yeah. So continue to invest time and the resources to grow and to look at new ways. I think when I see something not working in either one, I would say, let's say for the product, it's more about, well, what is it communicating? How do I do that better? Who can I team up with or collaborate with? Looking at more ways to partner. That's a big one for that. And so not just saying, oh, I'm going to try to scale this thing, but it's like, what can this really do to add value, to people in the community and be able to grow that way. And then the other piece with coaching is I'm going to continue to coach no matter what. And that's something that I want to continue to bring in, whether that's my next, career switch or something like that. If it's a new work in general, I'm always going to bring coaching into that, but it's really to really provide resources and content for men to be able to learn from and to be able to help them no matter what. And so I'm going to always do that to some level. And that is also about getting in the community. Hopefully it's more in person. A lot of that work can be virtual, which is great, but I love connecting in person. So it's looking at it as in, this is part of like life work for me, is the coaching piece, and something that I want to continue to do. And so that's going to be client by client, and I want to give my best to my clients and potential clients. And so that's something that is one client at a time, and keep growing it. So
nice.
Yeah.
Okay, my last 2 questions for you.
Yeah.
One, let's say you pass away today, God forbid. What is the one thing that you hope to instill in your kids?
One thing. That's hard. I'm going to say my faith, just like how I lived my life. And from there, how I loved people, that they would know that their dad loved God, loved people, and hopefully did that well. Yeah. So I would say that's, well, those two. And then from there, no, I would say probably one more yeah, look at kind of that go-to, like just step into things. You know, don't be afraid to fail, but get to the things that help you really believe in yourself and lean into that. And I hope that they saw their dad doing that and that they learned that too. But yeah, faith, trusting in God, loving people well, and believing in yourself that you can accomplish the things you want to accomplish. So yeah, doing that with that good perspective, that healthy perspective, right?
The healthy perspective.
Yeah, the healthy perspective. Knowing why you're doing it.
The last thing I wanted to ask is, out of everything you've done for the coaching, what's one advice you would love to give to men who haven't been in coaching yet or are in coaching, but like currently going through their mid-30s per se?
Yeah, I would say that it's okay to take a step into maybe an area of growth that you're not able to kind of pinpoint or figure out all the way. And if it's something where you're maybe not moving past, let's say, your starting block, or maybe you're getting halfway through, you're trying things and they're just not working, I would say take a step back. Can you start to unpack that for yourself? And if you're having trouble doing that, or if you're not able to see that, maybe you're feeling out of balance, and I'm going to use that word rhythm. You don't really have a lot of vision or things like that in your life and understand what's driving you. I would say definitely consider finding a coach and a mentor, somebody that's going to be able to challenge you, because a good coach is also going to listen. And I would say that's one of the most important things, and something I'm constantly learning is someone that will listen, but also say, hey, we're not going to stay here, and allowing that person to make those choices and to do that is really, I think, a first step. Yeah, looking at what drives you, and if you're having trouble figuring that out, I think coaching is a good next step.
Good next step.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here with me, man.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think we could have probably spent another hour talking just about like the men, right? Like
absolutely.
It's a whole topic, you know. I'm glad there's a lot more people talking about it today. Yeah. Right. And so we could have dove into there like another hour. Yeah. At least in that. For sure. But I really appreciate you spending the time with me. If people want to find you on your social handle, your company website, could you happen to tell them on the camera like where they can find your website?
So for the product, you can go to crumbskids.com, and for coaching, you can go to growthtakescourage.com. And I'd love to connect that way. So those are 2 ways to connect.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, guys. Season 2, halfway there. We're on the outro. Thank you.